I think in one of the episodes prior, I mentioned that one of my favorite games of all time is Harvest Moon. Delightful game. Love it a whole lot. And a lot of people have actually recommended Stardew Valley to me, and I'm going to be playing that one in the very near future. I'll have more of an announcement on that once I've got, I don't want to say too much, a little something solidified to make that particular Let's Play a little more special. But that's not the point of this particular Thoughts on Gaming. What I did want to talk about was there are other games that I like a lot too. Harvest Moon has a very special place. I love not just any one particular game, but the series as a whole. It's one of those things that just, it's delightful, and I'm always happy to play a new installment when one comes along. In terms of RPGs, the one that I love the most isn't one that I'd say a lot of people would peg off the bat as being one that they enjoy. Mainly because I'm not sure how well known it is. And this could just be ignorance on my part. But like when you think of your favorite RPG, most of the time people are going to pluck one of the Final Fantasies off the shelf and say this one. Like they say 10, 9, 7 is a fan favorite. A lot of people love that one. I like 2 for a lot of game mechanically broken reasons, but I also enjoy the characters too. Let's see, what are some other ones that people really enjoy? I'm trying to think of ones that my friends are always talking about. Chrono Trigger, the Chrono Trigger series, that's one. I guess, would Drakengard count? I think it falls under that genre as well. But games like that would be ones that people would flock to first. The one for me, even though I'd played a lot beforehand, was a game called Golden Sun. And I'm thinking that when I got that game, that would have come out in the early 2000s. It was on the Game Boy Advance. And it was a beautiful looking game. Still a very beautiful looking game. Graphically impressive for what a Game Boy Advance could do, or what you think a Game Boy Advance would have been capable of. Like, it was doing really, really well rendered sprite animations. It had like 360 degree turns. The animations in combat were just, I was blown away. And like, I was like a stupid 11-year-old kid at the time. So I was just kind of like, wow, these are amazing. An 11-year-old being blown away by the graphics. Like, not like, oh, this game is so fun. The graphics. Anyway. One of those games that really stuck out in my mind for a lot of reasons. One was that the story was interesting, where it starts off with the main characters as kids. This huge calamity befalls their town. One of them loses their parents. Other one loses their brother. And this tragedy kind of connects all of them. And I'm being kind of vague about it because it's been a very, 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 very long time since I've played the game. So I'm trying to pull from this without having to reference some Wikipedia page. And then it jumps ahead. You've got these same characters together. They're grown up and they're thrust onto this quest to go out, and if I'm remembering correctly, they're essentially trying to prevent these mysterious figures from activating these lighthouses, which I think like contained different elements of magic, of mana. And if all of them were activated, would unleash this horrible cataclysm that would just destroy the world. And of course, there's more to it as the story goes on, but that was the gist of it. And you were, in similar RPG fashion, you were going about improving your weapon skills, honing your magic. And you were also collecting these little spirits, I think they were djinns. There was like earth, wind, fire, water, the usual. But the more of them you got, the more of an effect they would have. They would buff your abilities and your stats, but you could also call them in for like a massive one hit. Wouldn't necessarily kill the enemy in one hit. Sometimes it would. The more of them you had, the more powerful version you could summon. So the first one would just be like one of the little djinns would pop out and nail one on the head. But you got the second one with the earth. I think it was like, he'd go from being like this little derpy looking toad dude to a giant floating pyramid with boxing glove fists to... What was the third one? I think the last one was like some giant knight with a sword. I know at one point, like, one of them summoned like Odin or a Valkyrie. I think that might have been Air. That sounds about right. But either way, had a very special fondness for this game. Played it right through to the end, and it was challenging. Like, Almost like the same way I get distracted in Elder Scrolls. There was a lot of little side stuff you could do, and it was addicting. The one I can remember most of all is in this one town, I think about a little over halfway through the game, where you can do a combination of tournament fighting and gambling. And that's where I found out I should probably never set foot in a casino, because I lost hours just gambling on different fights and trying to win, with mixed success. But anyway, lots and lots of fun. And even when the twist, because there's always a twist in these games, the villain you thought you were fighting wasn't actually the villain, or he was actually the puppet of the real villain who turned out to be the court jester, and you had no idea, and how could this happen? And all of a sudden, everything you'd been working towards was actually all part of his evil master plan, and instead of preventing the great cataclysm, you've helped usher it. Oh no! That kind of thing. Not exactly like that, of course, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but a really great twist in the game. A really great ending, and there was a sequel, although that one was one that I never played. Maybe I should, because if the story continues, and I love the first one quite a bit, it'd be interesting to see where the second one went. And I remember enjoying this game for years, going back and playing it again and again and again. And I'm sure we can all point to a game, maybe it's an RPG or not, that falls under that bracket. I mean, I'm trying to think of other ones I can do. For the Fallout series is one that I'll come back to a lot, the Elder Scrolls series as well. But in terms of RPG, Golden Sun was probably number one. Still is one of my favorites. And what I should really track down again, because, unfortunately, in my case, the tale of my ownership of that game does not have a happy ending. At some point between a camping trip I took with a friend of mine from grade school, and let's see, went on a camping trip, and then ended up going to, I think it was a cottage. I think it was bounced from one camping trip to another one. Somewhere between his house, the camping trip, and coming home, the game went missing. And I don't want to point fingers, but for a long time I kind of thought he stole it from me. And I don't know, maybe that was the case, maybe not. But I never found that game again. And I was so pissed. So pissed, because that was one of my favorite games, and probably my favorite game for the Game Boy Advance. Metroid Fusion being a very close second, because that one was pretty good too. But Golden Sun, a great game. And at least within my social circle, one that isn't talked about very much, if it's known at all. So, although I was admittedly a bit vague about it, I wanted to bring it up because it occurred to me today when I was actually doing a bit of video editing, and something that I like to do right now, because depending on the video, it can take anywhere from like a couple minutes to over half an hour, depending on how much is in it. And rendering and all that lovely post-editing nonsense, I have a little bit of time on my hands. So, when that happens, I'll try and chew through a book I'm working on, or I will flip open a DS I borrowed from a buddy of mine, and I'm slowly making my way through Fire Emblem Conquest. And it was playing that today that reminded me so much of Golden Sun, because it was just something about the characters where I'm like, this feels familiar. Not just like a Fire Emblem game, but I've seen this somewhere before. What is this reminding me of? And it took me maybe about 2 minutes before it finally clicked. I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of Golden Sun. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. And if you have a Game Boy Advance lying around, and if you know of a game shop nearby that sells used games, and if by some startling amount of luck they have a copy of Golden Sun in there, I highly, highly recommend that you pick it up and see exactly what I'm talking about. Or you can just do the modern day thing and go online and find it on eBay or Kijiji or Amazon or somewhere that can ship it to you by tomorrow. I'd say it's a worthwhile purchase, and it's probably not too expensive. I say that without looking at it right now, and I suppose I could because I am recording this on a computer, but I don't feel like it. You've got the computer in front of you. Do it yourself. Get yourself a great game, or just look up a Let's Play. How do you do a Let's Play Game Boy Advance games? Maybe that's something I should look up. Maybe I should go out and get a copy of Golden Sun. In fact, I think I will. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one. And you know what? If you have a game that you'd like to mention down in the comments below, whether it's an RPG or not, one that you can always come back to and have really fond memories of. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to try and do at some point in the future. Try and remember the very earliest game I ever played. No, wait a minute. Hold on a second. I'm actually looking at the list right now. I already talked about that. It was Doom. Okay, cleared that one. Man, I'm good. All right. So, until next time, hope you guys enjoyed this one. My name's Rye. You guys take care of yourselves.